Welcome to this all-important training. We're going to be talking about time management, which is very key. So I enrolled a student of mine recently, and this is a student who I helped one of her siblings achieved really great grades in the past. And what she mentioned to me was that, she sought advice regarding being overwhelmed. And she just felt like she had a lot to do, and there was just more work than she could handle. And I realized that, or it made me remember that, you know what, a lot of students are facing the same problems. So a lot of students have to deal with studying for 9, 10, 11 odd GCSE subjects, trying to juggle homework, trying to juggle extracurricular activities. If you are a student in a top set, for instance, you're having to deal with those high expectations that parents and teachers have of you, and it's quite overwhelming. And of course, what those students do is they just try and do everything, right? They just try and do everything. They stay up late, but of course, this just leads to stress, and it leads to things like lack of sleep. And there's a better way. And so that's what we are going to talk about today. So I'm going to jump right in. All right. So a title for today is Time Mastery 101, and we're focusing on how to excel in exams without that overwhelm, because this is the problem that many students have. And one of the things, here's what I find. I find that at school, we talk a lot about, we focus a lot on content. You've got to learn the content. But we don't teach students the other key things that they need that's going to help them, right? And I think that even many of us as tutors, we can be guilty of that. It's all, let's teach students to the exams, but we do not teach them all of those key things, all of those key skills that they need, whether it's time management, or whether it's resilience, or whether it's how to study effectively. And that is what lets some students down. So that is what we are going to talk about today. So today, right, 3 things. We're going to look at strategic planning and goal setting. We're going to look at effective study techniques, and also mastering stress management, right? It's just so students are able to really minimize their anxiety and overwhelm and stay on top of things. And as usual, if you stay to the end, I'm going to have additional resources that I can give you as well. So here is an example of a student who we've helped with time management. This is a student who achieved grades 5 and 6s in his subjects, Maths, Science, and English, but actually he started from around grade 3. So there's like a 2 to 3 grade jump just by working on these things. So you can see the information we've got from the parent there, much more than I was projected at the beginning of the year. So it was a massive jump. So let's go in. How do we manage the time? The first thing is strategic goal setting. So what does that mean? That means having a vision. So that child needs to have a clear vision of what they want. What do they want in life? What university do they want to go to? What career do they want to have? Because once they have that vision, it will then help them to break it down into mini goals that they can focus on. So you can already see, just by doing that, we're making things that bit more manageable. Okay. So that's the first step, strategic goal setting. Okay. Having that clear vision. The second thing is strategic planning. So once they know their vision, they can then break that down into goals and even more into priorities, right? So they will then be able to say, I want to become an accountant, right? And I need to focus on maths, and I need to focus on this specific topic in maths, right? And or this is a topic in maths that I've noticed is letting me down, right? Or it could be that I am noticing that I am not doing as well in exam questions. I feel like I understand in class, but I'm not doing as well in exam questions. Then this is going to be their priorities, right? So they then need to identify their priorities, and they can do that in several ways. They can do that by looking at books, by looking at checklists, by saying how they perform in exams, right? They need to find ways to identify what their priorities will be. And then from there, they need to set aside time to plan what key actions they will need to take to help them to reach those priorities. So the priority might be I'm not doing as well in exam questions, right? Currently I'm around a grade 5 and I need to achieve a grade 7, and I notice exam question is what letting me down. Okay, so at the start of the week, I'm gonna plan that 2 or 3 times for 20 minutes or 15 minutes, I'm gonna work on exam questions for this particular subject. It needs to be planned out, because when we start to do that now, we are in control and we're not just being overwhelmed and hiding under that bush. Then moving on with strategic planning, it's creating a timetable. So once they've identified these key actions, that now needs to go into a timetable, because it's an accountability thing, right? It's one thing saying I'm going to do that, but it's another thing actually seeing it in front of you every day, every week, and not having that excuse, or at least that minimizes the excuse, right, to do that. Why is a timetable good? A timetable will show you what you need to focus on for that week. What subject do I need to focus on, or what thing am I struggling with that I need to focus on? It will show you when you'll need to focus on that thing. So at Tuesday, 6 p.m. or whatever, right? And how long? Oh, I've scheduled it in for 20 minutes, 15 minutes. So timetable is really key. It's not just subjects. Strategically, if you plan it strategically, there's a lot that goes into a timetable. And because you've now identified those priorities, you've put them into the timetable, that should help really drastically reduce that overwhelm. Okay, the first thing is strategic studying, right? So if I just sort of go back up quickly, we talked about setting the goal, the vision and goals, planning, so identifying those priorities, putting them into a timetable. But now we've got to study strategically, okay? So you've put into your goal, you've put into your planner, into your timetable, okay, I need to focus on exam questions. How are you going to do that, right? What exam paper questions are you going to use? Are you going to use workbook with various exam paper questions? Are you going to look at only the 6 marker questions, or are you just going to do the 1 and 2 marker questions that are not going to really get you there? right? You need to be strategic about what you need to do. Or it could be you need to study a specific topic. How are you going to study that? Are you going to do exam questions? Are you going to be watching YouTube videos? Are you just going to revise with your book? There's just so many ways that you can study and study effectively as well. So all of that, it kind of really all under that planning needs to be planned, and you need to know what you're doing, because if you don't know what you are doing and you're only trying to figure it out at the last minute, that increases that stress as well. Okay. So when we look at having a timetable, it allows us to see what we'll focus on, when we'll focus on it, and how long we'll focus on it for. Strategic planning, on the other hand, strategic study, on the other hand, allows us to plan how we will cover that topic. So you can see that it covers a lot here. Okay. And so you're really looking at what is the best method to learn. And the last thing, and I've put it last, and I'm going to say I've actually saved the best for last. I've put it last, and it kind of might seem like, okay, it's not important, but actually it's probably the most important, is that self-care. Is that strategic self-care. Really spending time for themselves. And one of the things that I talked about recently is that having moved from being a full-time classroom teacher to a full-time tutor, one of the challenges that I found was time management, right? Teaching is quite a busy job, as is being a full-time business owner. But the roles are different, and time management was a struggle for me. And of course, what did I do, right? So someone who is ambitious, and a lot of our students who are very ambitious are guilty of this. We just say, well, I'm just going to put in the hours. Why not? I'm just going to work and work and work and work. But of course, what happens is that you get tired, you get stressed, you get a bit burnt out, right? And this is what students are doing. They just put in the hours, hoping for a different result. One of the things that I learned just very recently is to really schedule in time for myself. So just as I'm scheduling time, just as with a student, and you're scheduling time to revise, you're scheduling time to do your homework, you're scheduling time to go do to your tutoring sessions, you have to schedule time for yourself. And that should actually be the first thing that you should do. And with me, I found that when I did that, it made a massive difference. It meant that when I came back to work, I was more focused, I was more alert, I was more productive, will get more work done, and actually even enjoyed what I was doing more, right? Because just that time away from work just really helps to refresh you, right? So it's the same for students as well. They really need to schedule that time for themselves, right? Whether it's on the weekends, whether it's sometime in the evening, whether it's once or twice a week, but they need to be able to schedule some time for themselves, because that is going to help them to plan better. It's going to help them to focus on their tasks better. It's going to give them more of a refreshed mind so that they can study better as well. Okay, so these are really the 5 things that students who are overwhelmed need to focus on in terms of time management. This is useful for students who are in year level, and students who are especially in year 10 and are already starting to feel that pressure, that stress of all the workload, because by the year 10 you start to feel that. So let's just go through that. Let's just summarize that. First one, strategic goal setting, really having that vision. Second one, strategic planning, identifying the priorities. Thirdly, creating a timetable so they know what they need to be focused on, when and how long for. Strategic studying, planning how they are going to tackle that study, and strategic self-care. And, you know, again, you can see here, you can start to see all of the students that we've been able to help. This is a student that, you know, just did amazingly well. This one is showing biology, but not just in biology, in her, because she did sciences with us in her chemistry and her physics. You know, I think she got grade 8 in chemistry and physics and grade 9 in biology. So these kind of things, time management, these are the kind of things that we do to help. We work with our students here. Now, I have another training on actually planning out that vision, really mapping out that vision and actually planning out that goal. If you think that is something that will help, just put goal planning in the comment section that down below, and I'll make sure to send that out to you. And if you think all of this around time management, if you think this will also help your child in terms of our tutoring service, then, you know, you can reach out to me here in the group, or you can reach out to me on Facebook, and I'll make sure that I respond to you. All right, that's it for now. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.